Incredible girl saves an injured man from bullies, unknowingly transforming his hidden mafia life. Mia Thompson's heart raced as she trudged home from school, her backpack heavy with books and dreams. Today was just like any other until she rounded the corner and saw the chaos. A group of bullies surrounded a scruffy man with an unkempt beard and piercing eyes. He backed against the wall, fear etched across his face. Something inside her ignited. She was going to stand by this time. Taking a deep breath, Mia marched forward. "Hey! Leave him alone." Her voice shook with courage, and the bullies, surprised, turned to her. In that moment, everything felt like it was in slow motion. Gasps fluttered like leaves in the wind as Mia stepped between the man and his aggressors. She was just a girl, small and unassuming, but in her heart, she felt like a lion. "What's wrong? Can't you pick on someone your own size?" The bullies were momentarily dumbfounded. Mia glanced at the man. His eyes glimmered with gratitude, even as they brimmed with something else, a hint of desperation. The bullies sneered but backed off, clearly rattled by this unexpected turn of events. "You're gonna regret this, girl," one of them spat, but Mia hardly heard, her focus now on the man. "Are you okay?" she asked softly, her compassion wrapping around him like a warm blanket. I'm fine. Thank you," he stammered, his voice rough like gravel. But Mia sensed the truth in his eyes. He was far from fine. The way he stood spoke volumes about battles fought both inside and out. As they made their way together through the streets, Mia couldn't help feeling that something monumental had just happened. The man, whose name she learned was Matt, had a past that haunted the corners of his presence. But to Mia, he was just a man in need of kindness. "You stood up for me," he said, a flicker of a smile breaking through his stubbled face. "Most wouldn't have. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen." Now let's continue. Mia's newfound friendship with Matt blossomed quickly. Each day, like clockwork, she met him on the same corner after school. With every passing conversation, she sensed the shadows around him, the weight of his past lurking like a dark cloud. Whispers in her town grew louder, crackling with distrust as Matt became the talk of the community. How could she explain him to her family? To her friends? She loved the values instilled in her: courage, compassion, standing up for the underdog. But as she uncovered bits of Matt's history, the air grew thick with complicated questions. Could a person really change? Her heart ached, torn between the light she saw in Matt and the darkness he carried. What did this mean for her family? For her friends? Each hushed conversation at the dinner table seeped into her soul, asking questions she struggled to answer. When Mia stumbled across a faded newspaper clippings about Matt's past, the betrayal cut deep. She tossed and turned at night, heart pounding. Could she really trust him? As the winds of fear stirred the small town, Mia faced a choice: stand firm in her belief in redemption or turn her back on the man who had come to mean so much. With everything on the brink, Mia stood at the crossroads, the weight of her decision heavy in the air. Would she allow the love and compassion she held dear to bridge the gap of distrust threatening to tear her community apart? The truth loomed large, daring her to choose. Mia felt like she was walking on a tightrope, balancing the fears of her community against the bond she had forged with Matt. Every day after school, their conversations grew deeper, their laughter rippling through the air like music, but it was always punctuated by the haunting specter of his past. He spoke in riddles about his life, sometimes revealing glimpses of hope, other times alluding to shadows that loomed larger than the alley walls they often met in. One crisp afternoon, Mia noticed Matt's eyes scatter away from hers, burdened as if he carried 1,000 unspoken words. The sun dipped low, casting golden light across his face, highlighting the weariness etched into his features. "I wish I could tell you everything," he said, running a hand through his disheveled hair, "but it's complicated. Why can't you just trust me?" She urged, her heart thudding with urgency. "And what if trusting me puts you in danger?" The bitterness in his voice caught her off guard. Shifting uncomfortably, Mia's thoughts wandered. How could the light she saw in him be overshadowed by a past that still tormented those around him? She wanted to scream she believed in him, but the echoes of doubt from friends and family rattled her spirit. What if they were right? What if Matt was a lost cause? That night, her dreams swelled with doubt. Pictures of Matt's haunted eyes mixed with the distorted whispers of gossiping neighbors. "He's dangerous," they warned. "He's not to be trusted." It all seemed like a storm threatening to break, dark clouds rolling closer and closer. By morning, Mia felt hollow. As she walked through the hallways of her school, the laughter around her felt distant, like a world she didn't belong to. She confided in her best friend, Clara, whose wide eyes mirrored her anxiety. "What if he's dangerous? What if you're putting yourself at risk?" Clara's voice was laced with concern, and while Mia knew her intentions were pure, those words spiraled through Mia's mind. "I don't think he is," Mia whispered, determination threading through her voice. "He just needs someone to believe in him." Determined to face the whispers, she approached Matt again that day, searching for the courage that seemed to slip through her fingers like sand. She found him leaning against the wall, looking older than his years. "Can we talk?" she asked cautiously. He nodded, slowly pushing away from the wall. "Mia, before he could finish, the air exploded around them. A car screeched to a halt, tires skidding against asphalt, and several men jumped out, their faces fierce and set on anger. Mia's heart plunged into her stomach. "Matt!" one of them shouted, eyes laser-focused. "We're not done with you." A primal instinct kicked in, and she instinctively stepped in front of Matt, her instincts clashing with her better judgment. "Leave him alone!" Mia shouted, defiance coursing through her veins even as fear crept in. Matt gently pushed her back, stepping forward to face the encroaching danger. "Don't!" he commanded, his voice protective yet filled with turmoil. The tension between the groups was palpable. Mia could feel the weight of a decision hanging over her like an anvil. As she stood there, she realized she was not just trying to protect Matt but reclaiming her own sense of belief in the power of redemption. But what if she was wrong? What if stepping forward meant facing a darkness neither of them was prepared for? As hearts raced and breaths caught in throats, not just for them, but for everyone who now held their breath, Mia understood this moment could change everything. In the next heartbeat, Mia felt the floor drop away from under her. Would she discover the truth lurking behind Matt's choices, or was she now standing on the edge of a danger she couldn't comprehend? Her world was about to shift, and she was ready to plunge into the unknown. The chaos erupted in slow motion as Mia's heart raced. She could hear the pounding in her ears, the adrenaline smoldering like fire in her veins. The men moving toward them had a fierce intensity that chilled her core. Each breath she took felt like a wager, one that could cost her everything. As she stole glances at Matt. "Get back!" one of the men barked, advancing toward Matt with an ugly certainty. Mia's instinct screamed at her to run. Yet, her feet remained rooted as if they were glued to the sidewalk. She watched Matt, his face hardening into a mask she had never seen before. It was a mixture of fear, defiance, and something else, some flicker of hope. "Seriously, don't do this," Matt pleaded, desperation flooding his voice as he attempted to step back, but the men pressed forward relentlessly. Mia didn't think, she just acted. "You don't have to fight. Just tell them whatever they want to hear." "No. I'm not going to let them bully me." Matt shot back, his eyes fierce, like twin storms. The men laughed, a sound that prickled Mia's skin, the kind of laughter that made her blood run cold. "This is your chance, Matt. You think you can just walk away?" The leader gestured for his group to flank Matt, closing in on him. Panic surged through Mia, and her heartbeat thundered in her chest. Please, you don't have to do this. Just back off. She shouted again, hoping to defuse the situation with her voice alone. Back off? One man smirked. Or what, you little girl? You think you can protect him? Maybe I can, she said, surprising herself with the boldness in her voice. In that moment, something deep inside her shifted. It was no longer about Matt, it was about confronting the fear that had taken root in her life, the fear that whispered she was weak and powerless. The raw courage she found was a storm brewing within. Matt looked at her, his eyes wide with shock. Mia, you shouldn't shut up. Mia snapped, her voice snapping like a whip. Just let her be. The leader of the group's expression darkened, and he stepped closer. You think you're brave? You're just a fool. Get out of our way. He attempted to push past Mia, but she braced herself, putting her hands on her hips, standing her ground. Not a chance. Suddenly, she felt a brief flicker of hope wash over her, realizing she was fighting not just for Matt but for herself. Just as she drew in a breath to summon more defiance, another voice resonated through the tension. Stop. It was a different man, tall and commanding. He strode forward, eyes scanning the chaos as the group fell silent. This isn't the place for this, he declared, asserting dominance with an ease that suggested power. Mia turned her gaze toward him, confused but grateful for the reprieve. Matt, too, appeared to relax slightly, though tension still buzzed like static in the air. What is going on? The newcomer asked, eyeing the leader suspiciously. Just a little talk, the leader muttered, his bravado wavering ever so slightly. But Mia could sense the victorious glint in the newcomer's eyes, a sign that he might tilt the scales in their favor. As negotiations unfolded, a dance of words and postures, Mia's heart raced with an electrifying mix of fear and hope. She glanced at Matt, whose eyes shimmered with gratitude but still held a hint of the storm they had just faced together. And for the first time, Mia wondered if perhaps she wasn't just a girl caught in a moment of danger. Maybe she was a player in a game far larger than she had imagined. What truths would unravel from Matt's past as shadows loomed ever closer? Would they find the strength to face the monsters lurking in the dark? The silence that followed was heavy, taut, like a drawn bowstring. Mia stood at the edge of the fray, heart pounding, the air thick with uncertainty. The tension hung so heavily in the atmosphere that it felt like the air itself was screaming for release. She could see Matt, muscles coiled tight, ready to spring into action if necessary, while the newcomer anchored the situation with a calm authority that belied the chaos that surrounded them. Let's take this somewhere else, the tall man said, his voice low and steady. There was a trust in his tone that sparked a glimmer of hope in Mia's chest. Maybe he was their way out. The leader's response was a low growl, his bravado fading into something more cautious as he sized up the newcomer. What's this? You think you can just walk in and take charge? The leader challenged, though the sting in his voice lacked the earlier confidence. The newcomer remained unwavering, eyes keen and assessing. I'm not taking charge. This isn't a negotiation, it's a warning, he replied, cool as a breeze. Back off, or things are going to get messy. Mia's heart raced. Were they really going to defuse this? Would the tension in the air finally melt away, making room for something else? She dared to hope. Matt shifted beside her, the small movement sending a spark of adrenaline coursing through her. She looked over at him, his jaw set, his eyes fierce but with a flicker of uncertainty. In that moment, she realized how deeply intertwined their fates had become. She could see he was about to say something that might not be smart, but the fierce protective instinct within her surged up again, silencing him without a word. Just tell them what they want to hear, Matt. This is not the time, she whispered fiercely. As the newcomer stepped closer to the leader, the undercurrent of danger surged again. It wasn't just a standoff, it felt like a powder keg waiting for a single spark. Mia could see that Matt was thinking the same thing. His eyes flickered between the newcomer and the men surrounding them, gauging the situation. I said back off, the newcomer asserted, stepping in closer, more imposing. The leader scoffed, sizing him up. You think you can intimidate me? Intimidation? Nah, the man responded, his voice smooth like a river's edge, but Mia could see the wheels turning in his mind. I prefer negotiation. Mia felt sweat bead at her temples, her skin prickling with nervous energy. The world around them faded in and out, the urban noise becoming a mere whisper compared to the taut confrontation. She watched as the men exchanged glances, the air shimmering with an unspoken agreement or perhaps, a challenge. All right, the leader finally said, a begrudging respect flickering in his eyes. We've got time for one last chat. But make it quick. The seconds felt like hours as Mia's heart thumped loudly against her ribs. She could hardly breathe. Could this really work? Would Matt be safe? She glanced at Matt again, seeking reassurance in his gaze, but all she saw was the brewing storm of his emotions. Down his tight features played a fresh wave of defiance, an urge to fight back. Don't do anything reckless, she murmured, hoping he could hear the plea in her tone. He nodded, though Mia could tell his determination remained unyielding. As the two men began their tense exchange, something began to stir within her, a fear that no matter how this resolved, it would change everything. And not just for Matt. For her, too. What if this confrontation opened doors to a hidden world she had never known? Would she be able to face what awaited them on the other side? Shadows crept closer, and Mia realized her life was about to change, one way or another. Mia's heart pounded in her chest, a frantic rhythm overtaking her senses as she watched the two men circle one another. The leader's arrogance was still there, but it had dimmed, replaced by a cautious curiosity. She could sense that the newcomer was more than he appeared, a shimmering thread of authority wrapping around him even as the tension bubbled beneath the surface. What's your name? The leader snapped, trying to regain some control over the situation. Call me Ethan, the tall man replied, his gaze unflinching, like a stone set against the tide. Ethan, the leader repeated slowly, as if testing the name on his tongue. You sure you want to step in on this? This is our turf. Your turf. It's built on fear and intimidation, and that's a house of cards waiting to fall, Ethan shot back, his voice taking on a sharper edge. Mia could feel the weight of that statement hanging in the air, thrumming with danger, and she shivered at the idea that their entire world might be built on lies. The leader scoffed, but there was an edge of uncertainty creeping into his bravado. Uncertainty in men like him usually spelled trouble. Mia squeezed Matt's hand, grounding herself despite the violent energy vibrating through the gathering. He turned, giving her a fleeting glance filled with a fierce intensity that ignited a fire in her belly. She would rather stand here with him than face this alone. What do you want? The leader spat, the boldness in his tone faltering. Ethan's calm resolve didn't waver. Just to make sure nobody gets hurt tonight, he said, glancing briefly in Mia's direction. Let the girl and the kid go, and we all walk away from this. For a heartbeat, time froze as the three of them seemed to hold their collective breath. Then the leader laughed, but it was a harsh, brittle sound. You think I'm going to just let you two walk away? I think you want to avoid unnecessary bloodshed, Ethan replied, his eyes narrowing slightly. Otherwise, you'll lose everything you've built. Mia's lungs constricted as she took in the implications of Ethan's words. There was something deeper at play, a game of power unfolding before her very eyes. Her perception shifted, recognizing a hidden world of violence lurking just out of sight. It felt like she was standing at the edge of an abyss, the darkness inviting yet terrifying. Enough of this, the leader growled, his fists clenching. You're just a dead man walking. Before she could react, Ethan shifted into motion, his movements fluid and confident as he sidestepped and pressed forward, body language fluid yet poised for confrontation. Matt's breath hitched beside her, and she could almost taste the fear mingled with a desperate hope. Would Ethan be strong enough to get them out of this? Suddenly, the standoff erupted. The leader lunged toward Ethan, but Ethan dodged, moving with an almost predatory grace. The air erupted with noise, shouting, the sound of bodies crashing together, and Mia's heart raced not just from fear, but from an exhilarating rush of adrenaline. "Matt, stay close!" she shouted, her instincts kicking in as she stumbled back, watching in horror as chaos unfolded. As they scrambled to find cover, Mia's mind raced with questions. Who was Ethan really? What kind of danger had he led them into? And why did she feel such an odd mix of reliance on a man she barely knew? Just then, a loud crash echoed through the alley, cutting through the chaos. Mia turned her head, her throat dry, as the sound brought with it a whirlwind of emotions: fear, instinct, and something that felt dangerously like hope. In the midst of the chaos, she caught sight of something in Ethan's hand, a glint of silver. A weapon. Her breath hung in her throat. What had she stepped into? A thought crossed her mind, chilling yet electric. If tonight didn't end in absolution, would she be tethered forever to this new world Ethan belonged to? The fight surged around her, but deep down, Mia knew. Before this night was over, her entire life was about to shift. What awaited her on the other side of this breaking moment? Mia's heart raced as bodies collided around her, every sound a violent reminder of the reality crashing down. Ethan moved like a dancer in a storm, dodging punches with a calculated grace that amazed and terrified her. He was in control, but she could sense the peril lurking beneath the surface. "Ethan!" she yelled, voice cracking. She felt like she was shouting into the void, desperate to reach him amidst the chaos. But he didn't look back. His focus was entirely on the leader, who now grappled with one of Ethan's swift strikes, the pain etched on his face. "Mia, keep moving," Matt urged, pulling her to the side as the ruckus escalated. They barely had time to breathe, the adrenaline coursing through them like wildfire. Mia's mind scrambled, still reeling from Ethan's unexpected involvement in their lives. "Why are you doing this?" she shouted, searching for answers as she scanned the fray. "You don't even know us." "Doesn't matter," Ethan called back, throwing another punch. "What matters is that nobody deserves this." Her stomach flipped. He was fighting for people he barely knew, yet here she stood, anchored to fear and uncertainty. Mia had never been good at confrontation, but now, as she watched Ethan take control, pieces in her heart began to shift. Maybe this fight was more than a physical confrontation, it was a fight for something bigger. Suddenly, amidst the heated clash, the leader recovered, eyes blazing with fury. "Get him!" he snarled, rallying the others like a general commanding his troops. Chaos swelled anew, they surged toward Ethan, ready to crush him. Mia's decision crystallized in that split second. She couldn't just watch anymore, she had to act. She pulled Matt closer, whispering fervently, "We need to help him." "What? How?" he replied, bewildered. "We can create a distraction. Just follow my lead." Steeling herself, she stepped into the fray, filling her lungs with a rush of courage. "Hey! Over here!" she screamed, her voice slicing through the din of battle. Ethan threw a glance her way, surprised but intrigued. It was a momentary lapse, a flicker of acknowledgement that gave her strength. With every ounce of her spirit, she waved her arms wildly, drawing attention like a moth to flame. "Come on!" she pleaded as two of the leader's men turned toward her, confusion briefly mingling with rage. Matt darted forward, his hands forming fists, readying himself to follow her lead. In a flash, they both sprinted, drawing the goons away from Ethan, creating a brief opening. Seeing this, Ethan took his chance, launching himself into the fray to confront the leader directly. In that moment, Mia's heart soared and sank all at once. This wasn't just about survival anymore. It was a fight for freedom from fear, an assertion of their existence in a world that sought to suppress them. She felt her own strength burgeoning, and for the first time, she wasn't just a bystander in her own life. The leader snarled, towering over Ethan as the battle raged on. "You made a grave mistake coming here," he spat, venom dripping with every word. "Maybe," Ethan replied, wiping blood from the corner of his mouth. "But it's a mistake I'm willing to make." Suddenly, gunshots rang out, echoing into the night. Panic erupted anew. Mia! Get back! Ethan shouted urgently, the tide of their conflict shifting ominously. Time slowed as Mia's body responded instinctively, her mind racing with the reality of shifting loyalties and alliances. She glanced back at Matt, who was frozen in fear, eyes wide. She had to protect him, no matter the cost, because if this night didn't end with lives changed, it might be the end of everything they knew. And then she saw the gunfire come again, but not toward them, it was coming from somewhere else, the unmistakable glow illuminating figures in shadows, as if their very futures were about to collide. What had she unknowingly summoned into their lives? Would they all survive this brutal transformation together? As the weight of those thoughts surrounded her, the chaos crescendoed into a dark, uncertain future. As the gunfire cracked through the air, Mia's heart thundered. It was like an alarm clock sounding, jolting everyone into a state of frenzy. The crowd flinched as shells rained down, each shot echoing against the chaos of bodies colliding. In an instant, the focus shifted. Bodies that were once tangled in rancor now scattered, ducking and diving to find cover from the unseen attacker. Mia! Ethan's voice cut sharply through the commotion, drawing her back into reality. She could see him, adrenaline fueling his movements. He wasn't just fighting anymore, he was strategically dodging the incoming projectiles, moving like a warrior on a battlefield, resolute and determined. But Mia wasn't thinking about the fight. Her eyes burned with fear for Matt, who had stiffened beside her, eyes glazed over with terror. Matt, we have to move. We can't stay here. She grasped his wrist, pulling him toward a shadowy alcove near a dilapidated wall. He shook himself, finding his feet as they crept out of harm's way. Where are we going? His voice was hardly above a whisper. Anywhere but here. She replied, glancing back at where Ethan still battled. But as she turned, a ferocious shout broke through the chaos. The leader was rallying his men again, furious and motivated like a beast backed into a corner. With renewed energy, Mia felt the fire in her chest ignite once more. We need to help him, she declared, and her grip on Matt tightened to convey her determination. She scanned the area, looking for anything to tip the scales. Help him? Are you out of your mind? Matt gasped, fear etched into his features. He was trembling. Just trust me, Mia urged, her mind working overtime. She spotted a stack of wooden crates nearby, partially hidden in the shadows. If we can tip those over, it'll create a distraction. Matt's eyes widened, uncertainty weighing heavy in his chest, but urgency seeped into him, pushing against that fear. Okay. Let us do it. Moving with purpose, they crept toward the crates, heartbeats thundering. They could feel the atmosphere thickening with tension. Mia glanced back toward Ethan, who was being swarmed by minions, his focus unwavering yet increasingly strained. She couldn't let this be the moment he lost. On 3, Mia whispered breathlessly, adrenaline coursing through her veins. 1, 2, 3. They both heaved against the crates. With surprising force, the wood splintered, crashing down with a thunderous bang that silenced all other sounds. The distraction worked. The attackers turned toward the commotion, their eyes darting and the moment of chaos freezing them momentarily. Ethan seized the opportunity, launching himself forward, striking a glancing blow that sent shockwaves through the leader's group. Mia's heart soared for him, knowing he could turn this against them. Go! She yelled, urging Matt forward with renewed strength. They dashed toward Ethan, who was now engaging in combat with the leader directly. But as they neared, a sudden, sharp pain shot through Mia's side. She gasped, feeling an electric jolt and looking down to see a thin blade protruding, darkened, glistening ominously. Confusion clouded her thoughts. How had this happened? The realization hit her like a punch to the gut. Someone had gotten too close. Mia! Ethan shouted, his focus fracturing as he turned to her, concern merging with anger. Matt looked paralyzed, but not for long. Panic ignited in his eyes, and he rushed forward, grabbing Mia. We have to get you out. Now. As adrenaline mixed with the fierce pain, the reality of their situation began to unfold, heavy and terrifying. Would Ethan be able to hold his ground? How far could they run before everything changed? With the chaos raging around her and the cold grip of fear tightening, Mia fought to stay standing. "We're not done yet," she gasped at both of them, her mind already racing ahead. But as uncertainty loomed large over them, she couldn't shake off the haunting question, what would be the cost of this transformation for all of them? Would they still be friends, or simply survivors in a ruthless new world? The pain flared again, fiery and consuming, drawing Mia's focus away from the chaos. "Move, both of you," she shuddered, her voice grating against the effort to keep her standing. She felt Matt's grip tighten on her arm, the world bending dangerously as she stumbled backward, darkness flickering at the edges of her vision. Ethan was still fighting, his body twisting and turning, a flurry of strikes and dodges. But even amidst the fracas, Mia could see his eyes shift towards her, a wild tempest of fear and resolve spiraling within them. "Mia! Don't move," he yelled, but the urgent command barely broke through the haze of her pain. "I'll be fine," she managed to say through gritted teeth, but her words felt like ash in her mouth. They both knew that wasn't true. She could feel her strength waning, each breath a Herculean task. "Grab her. We need to go," Matt shouted, instinctively positioning himself behind Mia, steadying her. He was scared, but the glint of determination cut through his fear. "We can't leave him," Mia cried, desperation clawing at her insides. But her own body fought back, swaying. She felt sick, defeated. "He needs us now, just trust him, Mia. We can't do anything here. Please," Matt urged, his voice tinged with desperation. With a quick, darting look back towards where Ethan was still engaged, she saw doubt slip momentarily into his battle-hardened expression. The leader was closing in, and only one thing stood between Ethan and terrible danger: a thunderstorm of fists and fury. "Together!" she yelled, more to herself than them, summoning up what little strength remained. "Get ready!" Just then, the leader's shout cut through the pandemonium as he lunged toward Ethan, wielding a weapon glinting darkly in the fluorescent lights. Mia's heart raced. "Go, go, go!" Matt half dragged, half supported her. They stumbled back into a narrow alley that offered a momentary reprieve. The sharp edges of brick scraped Mia's skin, each move punctuated by pain. "Ethan!" she screamed, desperation coiling in her chest like barbed wire. "Just a little longer!" Ethan shouted back, adrenaline coursing through him, fueled by the fight. It ignited a hope within her, something worth holding on to. In the tight alleyway, every noise and movement felt amplified. She pressed her palm against the wound, feeling the heat of blood bleeding through her fingers. "We need to help him." It was a raw plea, shattered against the urgency of their situation. "No!" Matt snapped. "You're injured, Mia. We have to get you out, just stay with me." But the pull inside her was stronger, that nagging thought, that unquenchable need to fight back. Images flashed in her mind, shadows of laughter shared with Ethan, of planning weekend adventures that now felt worlds away. I won't abandon him. Not now. With a surge of adrenaline, she pushed away from Matt, her feet carrying her forward, urged by instinct. The world around her blurred, and she could hear Ethan's voice rise above the clamor, a rallying call against despair as he faced down the gang leader. Then, it hit her like ice water. He is surrounded. She yelled to Matt, panic slicing through her resolve. Mia turned back towards the alley, scanning for something, anything to help. Her eyes landed on an old pipe lying amidst debris. It wasn't much, but it could buy Ethan time, leverage the odds just enough. "Stay back," Mia commanded, her voice a tremor of strength and fear intertwined. She would make this count. Glancing over her shoulder, she caught a glimpse of Ethan's fierce concentration, his muscles straining against the tide of oppressors. With a final burst of determination, Mia staggered back out into the chaos, the blood pounding in her ears. She had become something more than herself in this moment, a protector, a warrior. And she would change the course of this battle, but what would happen once they faced the leader together? Would she have the strength to hold on, or would all of this be for nothing? That question hung in the charged air, waiting for answers. Mia charged forward, each step sending spouts of pain coursing through her body. The world seemed to slow as she focused on Ethan, his figure a beacon amidst the chaos. The leader's roar echoed like thunder, and the wild flailing of fists around Ethan made her stomach churn. "Hold on, Ethan!" she screamed, her voice fighting against the backdrop of violence. She stumbled onto the street, adrenaline igniting every nerve ending. The pipe felt heavy in her hand, but it became an extension of her will, a crude weapon filled with the determination to stand by Ethan's side. Ethan's eyes locked onto her for just a moment, and in that fleeting glance, she saw the fierceness of his spirit. It ignited something deep within her, a burning resolve to push through the pain, no matter the cost. He was fighting, but he was also focused on her safety. "Get back!" he yelled again, a mixture of anger and protection in his voice as he deflected an incoming blow. "Not a chance!" Mia shouted, her heart racing. She swung the pipe at the nearest assailant with a ferocity that surprised even herself. The moment the metal made contact, a sense of empowerment surged through her, mingling with the fear that had been her only companion moments before. The guy fell back, stunned. But the strike drew attention. Larger, heavier bodies began to close in around her, eyes darting like predators fixating on a wounded animal. "Mia! Get back!" Ethan's voice cracked through the chaos again, but the urgency in it only fueled her further. She fought through the nausea and weakness, laboriously moving closer to him. The pack around him shifted, and it was now or never. As she stepped forward, Ethan took a hard hit, staggering a foot back, inhaling sharply, fueled by panic. Mia lunged, swinging the pipe again. This time she connected solidly with another attacker. The thud rang through her, a physical manifestation of her fear turned into fierce courage. "Get away from him!" she shouted, forcing her voice to be louder than the cacophony that pressed against her. Ethan, steadying himself, glared at the leader bearing down on them. "You think you can intimidate us?" His stance shifted, solidifying into the warrior he was. "You don't know what you're messing with." The leader snarled, muscles tense. "You think playing hero is going to save her?" He stepped forward, swinging a fist, but Mia moved instinctively, raising the pipe and knocking it aside. She felt electrified, spells of courage coursing through her veins. "Stay with me, Mia." Ethan rallied, and together, they formed a makeshift barrier against the remaining attackers. She wasn't just a bystander anymore. The fight surged forward, a waltz of chaos. But Mia felt her energy waning again. Each swing became slower, her breath ragged. "Ethan, I don't know if I can," she panted, panic creeping back in her chest. "Just a little longer," he replied fiercely, his focus unwavering. "We're almost there, I can feel it." Then the leader lunged again, a wicked grin lighting up his face. "You think you can actually save her? You're just a boy playing with fire." Mia grasped at the uncertainty swirling within her, the taunt striking deeper than any physical blow. But she couldn't let her fear drown her fight. Not now. With fresh resolve, Mia glanced at Ethan's battered expression, then back at the crowd closing in. What if they failed? What would happen if she faltered now? "Together," she whispered, raising her weapon again. Ethan nodded, a connection forged in that fleeting moment. They were in this together, fighting not just for themselves, but for the chance at a different life. As they stood side by side, iron will surging through them both, the tide began to turn. But suddenly, a loud crash rang out from the far side of the street, echoing through the night. All heads turned, shock gripping the air. What was happening? And as Mia and Ethan's eyes widened in disbelief, uncertainty loomed again. What chaos was coming their way now? In the midst of the storm, the sudden crash reverberated shockwaves through the crowd, freezing every combatant in their tracks. Mia's heart lurched. Was it hope coming their way, or something more dangerous? The tension gripped the air like a noose, but in that split second, clarity struck Mia like lightning. Stay close, she urged Ethan, her voice burning with urgency. The ground trembled as a horn blared, and the shadows of an approaching vehicle loomed tall, headlights cutting through the haze of the night, illuminating startled faces. Could this be their salvation? The leader cursed, scrambling to gather his men as the car careened to a halt, tires screeching. A group of determined figures poured out, their faces set like granite, eyes sharp as knives. Get back! Shouted a booming voice. Mia squinted, feeling a flicker of recognition stirring within her. Their arrival was like daylight breaking through a storm. The newcomers surged forward, their mere presence deflating the burgeoning confrontation. And out in front, a tall figure with steely confidence commanded attention. What is going on here? He demanded, addressing the disarray with authority. Matt squeezed Mia's hand, eyes wide. Who are they? Mia could see the leader falter, eyes darting in search of escape. As panic surged through the remnants of his crew, the leader started shouting for his men to retreat. Let us go. We're done here. But Ethan stood resolute, drawing strength from the unexpected backup. It's not over yet, he spoke with fire, tension still boiling beneath the surface. Mia felt that fire ignite within her again, cementing their shared resolve. Mia, stay behind me, Ethan urged, stepping protectively forward as the new group squared off against the thugs. The clash of will was palpable, shards of bravery scattered along the battlefield littered with debris of old fears. In that moment, Mia bore witness to transformation not just in herself, but in everyone around her. With each swift move of the newcomers, the balance tipped. They were not just fighting for survival, they were fighting for each other, bringing light into the relentless shadows of uncertainty. With adrenaline coursing through her veins again, Mia tightened her grip on the pipe, feeling empowered by the reality shifting around her. We're not running, she shouted, forcing her voice above the panic enveloping them. Together, we stand. Their battle cry reverberated through their small community, echoing far beyond the chaos. The thugs hesitated, visibly shaken by their unity. Mia felt exhilaration bubbling within her, spurring her forward despite her pain. The pieces were fitting together, they were not alone in this. Hope surged stronger than fear, washing over her like the tide. The leader clenched his jaw, glancing at his remaining men, who were clearly wavering now, fortitude draining under the fierce gaze of resolute strangers. Yeah. You think you can fight us? He barked, though the tremor in his voice betrayed his fear. Ethan stepped forward, a soldier instead of a boy now. You don't own these streets anymore. It's time you learn, he growled, his voice crackling with conviction. With the realization that they were no longer pawns in someone else's game, Mia felt that the barriers between their pasts and futures began to crumble down. Perhaps this was what she had been fighting for all along, not just to save someone, but to unlock their own potential, to reclaim their lives from fear. And then, the unexpected happened. As the confrontation escalated, the tide turned when one of the new figures lunged forward, taking the leader by surprise. In the blink of an eye, he disarmed him, sending shockwaves through the remaining thugs. Your time is up, they shouted, taking control. Mia's breath caught, and with it, a burgeoning sense of hope bloomed like wildflowers in spring. She wasn't just a girl anymore, she was part of something bigger, part of a family forged by struggle and determination. Even Matt's resolve brightened, spilling forth as he found his courage reflected in her. Now, Mia shouted, rallying the newcomers and Ethan together as the remnants of fear dispersed into electric anticipation. As the last vestiges of doubt collided with fierce bravery, they surged forward unified, ready to cast the darkness behind them for good. All around them, the world fell silent but for the sounds of determination pushing back fear. They stood strong, heartbeats synchronizing as one, ready to reclaim their community, to reclaim each other. As the last of their adversaries melted away, Mia felt a weight lift. The shadows that once seemed so daunting peeled back, revealing a path lit by the warm glow of newfound friendships. Mia, Ethan breathed, looking at her as the threat dissolved into echoes of the past. His eyes held something deeper now: gratitude, connection, and an understanding that they had both weathered the storm together. "I'm here," she whispered back, relief flooding over her. The journey hadn't finished, there were still questions to address, still shadows to confront. But as she looked into Matt's determined eyes and Ethan's fierce spirit, she knew they would face it together, and in that moment, solidarity shone bright in their hearts, paving the way for brighter tomorrows. Because what they had forged in the fires of struggle, was more powerful than fear. It was hope, healing, and family. This was just the beginning. Now, don't wait even one more second. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories that will inspire you. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and keep the momentum rolling. Your support means everything. Comment below your reactions and feelings about this transformative ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this amazing journey. Show your true fandom today.